All right. Hello, my name is Evan Team, and today I will be presenting electric versus hybrid in the modern commercial vehicle landscape. This is my research outline, beginning in the top left with O1, my introduction. In my introduction, I'll be explaining consumer trends, economic and environmental motivators behind car purchases, and then I'll get to my research objective. And then in part two, I'll explain the history behind automobiles, and then I'll define necessary terms, and then I will explain current developments related to the current time. Specifically, I will be talking about the development of the internal combustion engine, which led to the hybrid engine and electric motor prevalence in the modern ecosystem. And then I will talk about how the conventional gas engine was phased out or is phasing out. And then from there, I will talk about government intervention. And then in my part three, I will discuss I will address dated misconceptions and do qualitative comparison between EVs and hybrids. So I'll be looking at the strengths and weaknesses of both hybrids and EVs by addressing car buyers' main concerns when making their purchases. And that'll just be a broad overlook of both options. And then I'll also do a broad overlook of environmental impacts, since it's not so quantitative as what I will be doing in part 4, which is my quantitative comparison. But I have not done that yet. That'll be towards the end of my research when I have a decision or have an answer. Yeah, and I'll calculate the price and cost of charging/fueling top EVs and hybrids. So that'll be the ongoing incurring costs of ownership of both EVs and hybrids. But then from there, I will input the initial price of the car to kind of just understand how much it's costing. And then I'll also have to take into account tax breaks and other government incentives, which will affect the final price of ownership that I will calculate. Those things matter, you know? Okay, and then this is my introduction in depth. On the left, I'll start with consumer trends. That's the money man. So consumer trends today being more on the modest spending, more on the cheaper spectrum, not as much money as we'd like to see in our wallets. This is due to inflation and rising costs, especially gas prices, leading to people changing their decisions on how to get around. Transportation, it's an important one. That's why cars are on the talks. And then in the middle, we'll have the environment. Not as large of a concern for many, but definitely present in many decisions. In the current day, more modern, more of a modern take. After much research and evidence has shown since the Industrial Revolution that O2 emissions and greenhouse gases affect our environments, and we gotta cope with that. Gotta manage. So there's environment and consumer trends, and that leads to the third discussion is the choice between the two, hybrids and EVs, which are the two viable options left. And that's what I'll be looking into in my research. And then this is my part 2, history, definitions, and current developments. So the history of automobiles starts in the late 1800s with the invention of the internal combustion engine. And that the internal combustion engine lasted many years into the 21st century. However, now it's not so great. The hybrid and the hybrid engine and the electric motor became more prevalent in the early 2000s. However, although they were attempted to be put to use, they were invented much earlier. They were just only viable more recently. That's why that is the discussion. The internal combustion engine is not as viable anymore compared to the hybrid engine and the EV, which are more economical options and environmentally friendly today. And then we'll talk about current developments, which are, it's looking at the government's intervention. The internal combustion engine is phasing out, like, largely because of consumers wanting to save their money, but also because of the government wanting to advance more environmentally friendly commercial vehicle options, and that has led to legislation being passed to cut down on the gas cars. California, Gavin Newsom has signed off on a bill to make all new vehicle sales in the state zero emission vehicles in the year 2035. So we'll be much more environmentally friendly by then. And our state's decision has influenced other states, which has influenced federal rule lawmaking, and will then carry on to the global stage. And then here in my part 3, I'll be addressing dated misconceptions and also doing my qualitative comparison. So common dated misconceptions are had for EVs, being that they are not, I mean, I'll say that most cars still on the road today are internal combustion cars, so not the most efficient vehicles when there are better options available. But many are still in use for economic reasons. It's cheaper to keep running the more expensive car to run. Gas is expensive, but it's more expensive to invest in a more economical car for some. But that doesn't mean that the EV is not up to par, even though it is not as prevalent compared to others, to internal combustion vehicles. EVs have good enough range now. They have developed, and there are chargers available, and I'll be talking about that. And then qualitative comparison, I'll be looking at, like I said, there are many concerns that buyers have when making a car, those being price, of course, and other factors like insurance payment, retainment of value, safety features, a lot of factors involved. So I'll be looking into how EVs and hybrid cars, how they do in those categories. And then here will be my quantitative comparison. I'll start with the leftmost, just being the price of the car into the ongoing costs, and then the tax breaks, which all add up to make my final decision at the end of my research, or final answer to the study. And then here's my works cited. Thank you. Yep.